right. Well, thank you all for joining us for another episode from Stories They Buried podcast. I am here with Imani Sutter. She is a survivor of the Greensboro massacre that happened on November 3rd, 1979. The Greensboro massacre was a deadly confrontation in Greensboro, North Carolina, when members of the Ku Klux Klan and National Socialist Party of America shot and killed five demonstrators in a Death to the Klan march organized by the Communist Workers' Party. Caesar Cause, James Waller, William Evan Sampson, Sandra Neely Smith, and Michael Nathan. Two of the
Mhm.
first fatalities were James Waller and Caesar Cause. Both were unarmed. See, I like how they put that in there. Both were unarmed. So we all need to keep that in mind, right?
Right.
Michael Nathan was shot dead while running to James Waller's body.
Yes.
Sampson was shot while firing at caravan members, and Sandra Smith was shot and killed while pulling children to safety inside an apartment.
Hmm.
Now, um, there were people out there of all ages and of all colors just out there protesting. The group was a group full of activists involved in racial justice efforts and in unionizing textile industry and hospital workers in the area. Is that true? Do I have is
That
that
is true.
accurate?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
so this is a regular protest. This is a regular
Yes.
nonviolent protest. And this protest was in the Morningside Apartments, which was a housing community in Greensboro, if I'm not
Hmm.
mistaken, near North
Hmm.
Carolina A&T State University's
It was
campus.
absolutely.
Yeah, so this is a community. This is a
Mhm.
protest. Everybody protests for something, right?
Absolutely.
This is a protest in a housing community. So tell us what happened.
Well, we were we started off, my mom and I and my younger brother and older brother started off at Windsor Center, and then we moved over to Morningside. And so it started off as a normal rally. By the time I was 6, I had been to several rallies. To me, the rallies meant that I would see some of my best friends, other demonstrators, or CWP members, Communist Workers Party members, children, that was our time to just get together, and while our parents were fighting or demonstrating over one cause or another, we were there to absolutely see each other and play. And so it just started off as a normal day. We're singing. We There is a Klan like stuffed sheep that looked like a Klan doll, maybe. And we was singing, and the kids got to hit the Klan doll, and you could see our parents, because this was the starting point. So you could see them trying to get trucks ready, get flyers and pickets, and so it was a normal thing for us to see this at that time. We So there was us just preparing for the march, and then my aunt came to pick up my younger brother, who was like 3 at the time, so he couldn't march. And so I walked with my mom to take my younger brother to put in my aunt's car. And at that time is when you saw the Klan rolling in. And so my mom put my younger brother in the car, and she took off running, and I took off running behind her. My aunt did eventually catch up to me, but it was when they were fire. It was already when the gunshots had started. So we were just running all over the place, um, and then it turned into this massacre, and so from that point, I just don't remember anything. And I know that, like, when we see the clips over and over again, as we have since 1979, I can remember some things, and the lady that tried to get all the kids in the house. I can remember some pieces. But what I do remember vividly is that I woke up at Signe Waller's, Jim Waller or James Waller's house, their house, and I was just laying in their like foyer where they had this built-in bench and waiting for my aunt to come and get me and my older brother. And I just remember asking, you know, where is mom? So during this whole time, she didn't know where we were. We didn't know where she was. So,
Yeah, and your mom, the late Miss Wilena Cannon, I was honored to meet her, back last November when I did the story with you all, when I interviewed you all. Miss Wilena, she was out there too, and I didn't know this, until I interviewed y'all back when I was at the station in November. Was that, and this was all caught on camera. It all seemed
yes.
to go down very, very fast because you see the cars pull up, and then shots are just ringing out, and everybody's running and all that other stuff. And Mr. Nelson Johnson, he was kind of like the head protester, right? Or at least one of the
Well,
leader
he was,
protesters.
yes, he was like maybe, I don't want to get the title wrong, but he was like maybe the chairman of this area. And he is one of the lead organizers. And him and Jim were one of the lead organizers. And I think Jim, it could have been that Jim was more of the chairman, or maybe they were like co-chairman, but I knew the Greensboro chapter was headed by Reverend Nelson Johnson and Jim Waller. So I do know that. I do
Okay.
know that, yes.
Okay, because I remember seeing this on video too. About 5 to 6 cops had surrounded Mr. Johnson. And
And
I
my
could
mom,
see your
yes.
mom, Wilena Cannon, kind of go over there to try to stop them. Tell us about that, because that was all caught on camera too.
So when you see my mom and Reverend Nelson standing together. I call him Uncle Nelson, so if I say that, I definitely mean Reverend Nelson Johnson. But you see, my mom ran, as I said, and she ran straight to Jim, and then someone in an apartment was trying to hand her a towel, and you can see she's trying to grab that towel, and then she runs to Uncle Nelson, and they were trying to arrest him. He was, and at that point in the video, you could see his arm was bleeding. He had been stabbed
Mm.
by one of the Klan members, and my mom went over there to rip, like, stop them from trying to do that, and they end up arresting him, dragging him to the ground, pulling him, and my mom tried to intervene, and they end up grabbing her, and and then they arrested both of them,
Mm.
and so for about 24 hours, I didn't know where my mom was. Like, they had taken her, but when my aunt tried to get her out of um, to bail her out, they kept saying we don't have a Wilena Cannon.
Mm.
So finally, like maybe the evening of November the 4th is when we saw my mom. And I remember my mom walking in the house, and she's a fair skinned lady. She was a fair skinned lady. And my younger brother saw the bruises on her and immediately burst into tears.
Why did they lie about that? Why would they say that they didn't have a Wilena Cannon when they know that they had her in custody?
I don't know why they lied about that. They also told them, Nelson and Wilena, they told them that kids died on the scene. So they were there not knowing where their kids were. And
Mm.
we were on the other side not knowing where they were. And my mom and Uncle Nelson was trying to figure out, was our kids some, because literally in the video, it opens, the opening scene of November the 3rd is me holding a picket sign, singing songs with Tom Clark. and that is where the heavy fire was. It
Mm.
was maybe 50 yards, 75 yards where Mike Nathan got shot. So we were in the thick of it, and that is the last thing that they saw.
Mm.
Like we went. So my mother and I did go to the car, but we were there. Io Nelson's children, Io and Akur was right there. My brother was right there. They had this JYL. It was the Junior Youth League, and it was for my older brother's age. So if I was 6, he was maybe 10 or 11. He was 11, and and the Junior YL they had these red Tams on, so you had to be a certain age to be part of the Junior JYL, and so you could see my brother running. You could see like all these kids running, and then Sandy is the one who saved the children. So
Wow.
mhm.
It was a caravan of 9 cars and a van filled with 40 KKK and American Nazi Party members pulled up and started shooting at marchers. Now, how did how did we get there? Like, I mean, how did they even know that you all were there, and why were they so against you all?
Well, there was an informant. His name is Ed Dawson, and he was an informant for the police. So the police knew that the Klans were coming, and the police provided the parade permit. And so the Klans had all the information that they needed, and it was given to them by police officers or the police department.
Wow.
And so that's how they knew we were there. And so Ed Dawson played both sides, and as an informant for the police to let them know that, hey, we about to come to Morningside, and we're coming in full force. And the police officers still didn't do anything. As a matter of fact, everybody on the east side of Greensboro, every patrol car, police officer was sent on lunch or told to go to a different area of Greensboro, whether it was they went to west, they went west, and they went north. So they went in opposite directions of where we were. We had no police presence there at all, and there was no police presence on that side of town at all.
Yeah. Now I see here it says, officers were not present during the confrontation. It says a police photog and detective followed the Klan and neo-Nazi caravan to the site, but stayed several blocks away, not intervening in events. Now, for my listeners, this is a highly unusual case here
Yeah.
because police, anytime there's an event going on, police are always present. Police are present, just to, monitor the situation, crowd control, traffic control, that type of thing. But
Mhm.
I mean, so they weren't nowhere near you all at all.
No, no.
That's crazy.
And then when they did come in, when they finally came in, they did arrest some of the Klan members, but they also arrested us.
Well,
So yeah.
something, Imani, why would the police not protect you all? I just don't get that. What was it about you all that, I mean, y'all were just a group that was protesting racial injustice, pay for textile workers and all that other stuff,
Mhm.
like a unionizing. So, I mean, why were you all such a threat to the police? Because, protesting things like that was not unusual.
Well, we were a group of made up of predominantly blacks and Jews. We were in a black neighborhood. We were going against Cone, which is a very was a it still is a very prominent family in North Carolina and in Greensboro. So we were going against the machine, and then we were going against the machine, and we were considered of inferior races. And so, and then right before this all, I don't think they were Communist Workers Party 2 months. We just changed the name to that. So the name communist, and the whole idea of communism sets off a red flag to all Americans. And
Mm-hmm.
Americans who don't know what communism is, but it these hate groups are designed to hate people that look like us
Mm-hmm.
and that are have the nerve to not just look like us, but to make noise. So they're not police in America are not even designed, but they don't even think to protect black folks. And so that was more prominent in 79. So, in the 80s, Reagan made all black poor people the enemy. So it's like
Right.
this has always been America's agenda.
Well, I mean, it's, how can I put this? It's like, and for the listeners out there who don't know, you mentioned the Cone family being a very prominent, powerful family. I guess in this region of North Carolina, or just in this whole state of North Carolina, Cone Health is the name of a hospital down in the Greensboro area. So they're connected to the Cone family and all that other stuff. Correct?
That is the Cone family.
Right.
They went
Right.
from textile to healthcare. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay. Here's some facts about the investigation. In 2004, a private organization, the Greensboro Truth and Reconciliation Commission, was formed to investigate the events that happened on November 3rd, 1979. The commission concluded that both sides contributed to the tragedy, but the Klan and NSAA members intended to inflict injury on protesters, and police were responsible for allowing it to happen. When I saw that seemed to be a contradiction, because it's like, okay, we're blaming both sides here, but yeah, we're gonna, hold the Klan and NSAA members responsible, intending to inflict injury on protesters. And yeah, police were responsible for allowing it to happen and not being there, etc. But so, I mean, why are you all blaming the protesters? That's what I don't understand. And here's what I never understood about the situation either. I do not believe for one second that y'all went out there to cause violence or anything. Number one, like I said earlier in the episode, there was people of all ages out there. You were 6 years old. So I highly doubt that the group would knowingly try to incite violence if children were out there. And also, I saw footage, myself of, what happened and what went down before the shooting. Like you said earlier, y'all were singing and dancing and you had the drums out there. That doesn't scream, we're trying to start violence to me. And then thirdly, you all were in a housing project, like a
Mm-hmm.
housing community where there's 50 to 30 or hundreds others of families and stuff and children living in that area. So I'm just not understanding, why are y'all being blamed for this when no, y'all didn't kill nobody. I'm
Right.
confused.
Yeah, that would be a question I think that is a question that is an age old question, and the answer is still the same. We are confused. We are confused. We don't understand why. I just didn't. We still don't. And it is accepting the fact that this did happen. They did say this, but my mom and her her group wanted to fight until the very end, because they both, Nelson did and my mom did, and Paul is still like, they're fighting to make it stop saying that we incited. That's really, at this point, I think what the first generation wants is stop saying that we did this. Don't write it down as we wanted violence or we incited violence or we were fighting, because that was far from the case. Like, so
Right.
far from the case. And it's all recorded, what mood we were in. It was all recorded of how we were prepping. It's nothing was like, grab these sticks and let's become this angry mob. No, we was informing people in the community what this rally was about. And so it's like, I don't, for the life of me, I can't answer the question, nor do I understand why. Like, it is at this in 2026, it should be easy for us to be like, yo, this happened. Um, the Klan, which they doing the same thing they've been doing for centuries. The Klan came to cause violence, and the Nazis came to. These are historical violent organizations,
Yeah.
and somehow or another, we were the violent ones up against them.
The KKK and National Socialist Party of America were acquitted by all white juries selected partly on their anti communist views.
Mhm.
Defendants claimed they acted in self defense. In a civil
Right.
lawsuit, 8 defendants were found liable for wrongful death of the aunt of the non-communist of one
Michael
non-communist
Hager.
workers party member. There seemed like there wasn't like a whole lot of news coverage afterwards about this. Now there were news cameras there, and I think even one of the cameramen um
Was that?
was shot, right. And so the whole thing was aired live, I believe. I mean, you could see,
Yes.
bodies dropping and shots and all that other stuff. But I'm so surprised that there was no type of national outcry about this incident and about the abandonment that you
Yeah.
all faced. Blatant abandonment.
Yes, and it is one of the things that you could read on our parents' faces when the Truth and Reconciliation or trying to get Greensboro to acknowledge it, and they wouldn't, and you could literally see the anger, the devastation, the disappointment on their faces. There's no outrage because we were communists. There's no outrage because um, the justice system made it so. I mean, for you have several cameras, several camera people um, recording this in real time, and you saw basically who shot who in real time, and then still they were acquitted. So that we have distrust in the justice system because it's always a tilted scale. But and there was no outrage because one of the things that the second generation had to live under is our black friends, their parents really didn't want them hanging with us because we brought the Klan here. Is the common misconception, and if we were quiet, none of this would have happened. And so those are the things that that we had to live with. Excuse me, that we had to live with when we were younger. But when you have Klan and Nazis in the same place, the best thing for anyone to do after things happen is to be quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And so, my mom and Uncle Nelson and Aunt Joyce and Uncle Paul, like they all spend their lives talking about it, trying to um, bring recognition to it, and um, trying, I guess, to get social justice of what was happening and acknowledgement that this was really a messed up thing that happened to us, and we're blamed for it. And so I understand because I'm older now. I understand that why they never, because we wanted them to stop this. I wanted my mom to stop. I wanted her to get out the party. I wanted her to be normal, but and stop trying to get people to recognize what was wrong. It was one of the biggest things that I tried to fight against as a kid internally with my mother. But I know now at this age is they need people to say, okay, it wasn't your fault for us. They needed it for us. And even though we knew internally, the second generation knew because I mean we knew, we were taught what racism is, who the clans were. I knew at 6 before November the 3rd that a Confederate flag was danger.
Right.
And so we learned all of this and at a young age. And I guess it's just that the reason why they didn't stop is because they needed us to know, and they needed our peers to know, and they needed so that I think they did this so that we could not have the stigma of, you know, agitating the Klan and don't,
So
you know, they
basically, you
could.
feel as though y'all were punished, and this was sort of
Oh yeah.
like a how can I put it? This was sort of like a you asked for it. We're gonna punish you, um, and how or maybe set y'all as an example.
Oh yeah.
You know,
They set us as an example for years, and so no one else came to speak on that. No, or to take up for us. No one wanted to. Um, they didn't want to be affiliated with it because they saw what was happening to us and what continued to happen to us.
back in 2020, I believe, didn't the city of Greensboro issue like a formal apology or something? Talk about that.
They Well, the Greensboro issued a formal acknowledgement. The mayor herself, Yvonne Johnson, issued an apology on her behalf. Um,
Mm,
but the thing about it, I'm almost one of the only ones in my generation. I don't see I didn't, I was against the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. I was against Greensboro, them trying to get an apology from Greensboro, because the apology will be like, we're sorry, but. And so it's immediately,
mm,
and so it's like, we're sorry, but we didn't work with the clans. We're sorry, but we didn't tell officers to go to lunch. We're sorry, but we didn't do this. So them saying sorry is very superficial, and they wouldn't have acknowledged their own participation in this massacre. So the sorry, I mean, was not, not genuine. And so with the Truth and Reconciliation, and why I felt that way about it is because I feel like I don't have to talk to you and tell you that the sun is shining when I can point to it.
right.
So it's like they did all of this to point to something that was captured on film, on film. And so it's like I'm setting up this whole committee so you'll know that your eyes are not lying at what it sees. And so I, I felt like, and I still feel that the time that we spent with the Truth and Reconciliation could have been time that we spent as a family to finally not make it about believe us, but make it about more healing internally. I still feel that way because we all have. My name is Imani Suttereth, so I'm removed from Walina Cannon. You have to dig to see. You either have to know us or dig to see a connection. Um,
Mm,
but like Io and Akua, as soon as they find out that their last name is Johnson and who they are related to, Io's a nurse practitioner, a nursing supervisor, and Akua is the CFO of. She's been the CFO of several HBCUs. But as soon as they find out who their daddy is, they are now excused because of something.
mm.
And so, but once they
Really?
found out, when my mom died, and she was all over the news, and her work was all over the news, and her life was all over the news. I have people at work that are local people that no longer speaks to me. Like they will
Wow.
still look me dead in my face and keep walking. Fortunately for me, the company that I work for is a Belgium-based company, so they're not well versed in a lot of American history, or in terms of something from a small city in North Carolina. So I had no problem with them. As a matter of fact, HR, my mom died in January, and HR made my mom Woman of the Month
Oh, wow.
for Women's Month. But the local people from the small surrounding areas, they do not speak to me anymore. And so
That's
we've been getting
crazy.
that since we were six. If you and I were best friends in '79, and your mom saw what the news put on, you could no longer play with me at all.
That's
And you,
insane.
and your mother would tell you, or your mother would tell me, my daughter cannot play with people who are dealing with the Klan. So it's almost like we were dealing with the Klan during the aftermath.
But
So it's
Imani, I mean, we all know Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X and I mean, ain't nobody's actively avoiding Bernice King because of who her father was. And we
yeah,
all know, I mean, Martin Luther King Jr., he did protests and marches on a national scale. I mean, that is
they're not.
insane. Why would people actively avoid you? I mean, that's
They are not avoiding Bernice King now. But I would bet every red cent that I have that when her dad was marching and
mm,
after his assassination, she had, because you got to remember MLK Day wasn't signed in until Reagan was in office.
right.
So it's like I'm sure that she did. I know that she did because not black folks are terrified of the Klan,
Yeah.
and especially during that era. Like, and so when you're doing all of this and you're talking to the Klan and you're being Martin Luther King Jr., I some parents are afraid to have their children around that because they
Mm,
see it as danger. They doesn't see it as advancement, or they don't see this as something that he's doing for everybody. They don't see that. All they see is that with him comes trouble. And
mm,
so that is how they saw us. With us comes trouble. And the Klan and the Nazis have shown everybody in Greensboro that they're not afraid to come in the broad daylight. Like in 20 minutes is when the massacre took place.
And
In
this was in
20
broad daylight. Yeah.
in broad daylight at 11 o'clock. And it was like, and 88 seconds later, our lives changed.
Wow.
We went from kids, like rowdy, rambunctious kids, to having fear in our eyes every time my mom went out the door.
And I think what's even scarier, Imani, because like I said before in my notes here, is that um, these groups, the KKK and National Socialist Party of America, were acquitted by all white juries selected partly on their anti-communist views. So,
Yep.
correct me if I'm wrong. Nobody at all did any time. Because again, people were
Not a
killed.
not a day. Even the clans that got arrested on the scene was out before my mother.
So, I mean, how were you all able to be so brave and remain in this area of North Carolina years later like that, knowing that these people are out here walking free?
The biggest question to my mom was that. It's been the biggest question I had probably since I was 7. Before the massacre happened, we have been packing up our stuff because we were moving to Alabama, Birmingham of all
Oh Lord.
places. But yeah, we were moving to Alabama, but there was some organization that needed to happen in that area to start a new chapter. And so my mom was selected to go down there and help organize. And then November the 3rd happened, and then all of our stuff is back in our house. Then a few years later, comrades of my mother got together and was like, you can move to DC. And my mom was like, no, I'm staying here. And I'm like, why are we staying here? Um, I was upset um, that we didn't move. I was upset that um, any chance of escape was prevented by my mom. And my mom said to me, might have been in my teens, maybe early 20s. She said, I am on the front line and I am fighting for us. And I didn't go to Alabama because I wasn't needed in Alabama the way that I was needed in Greensboro. I wasn't going to DC because the problem wasn't in DC. She said the problem was local. And I stood and I wanted to stand beside my brother and continue our fight in Greensboro. And Nelson Johnson and Melina Cannon are the only families that stayed. And the only families that stayed in North Carolina. Other
Oh.
families moved to Baltimore, I mean, to Maryland, New York, California. Hell, there's one that moved to Canada.
Wow.
So it's like we stayed on the front line, but and I understand her mission and why. But what I don't think they knew or understood was what we were, the hell that we were catching on the back end. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I was catching it from teachers. I had
Wow.
a teacher put me under the desk all day long. I
Really?
only got out to come from out under the desk to use the bathroom and for lunch, and back under the desk I went.
Really? So like literally under a school desk in school.
Under the school desk, and I thought I had done something bad, and I was not going to tell my mom, but my teacher had dropped an ink pen. I disassembled the ink pen, used the tube of ink to write on the desk under it, and it was all over my clothes and my hands. That is how she found out, because I wasn't I wasn't going to tell her because I thought I did something wrong. And I didn't want her to come to school and do what moms do if they have to come to school and you did something wrong.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah, so it was like I was trying to prevent that.
Wow. And that's the thing too, is that, throughout history, from me researching history and different things, you really never know who is connected to who.
No,
Because
not at all.
people don't tell you outright, oh, my husband is in the Klan. They'll
Right,
do it in
absolutely.
past tense, because I had one time before a coworker of my aunt's told her that her grandfather was a grand dragon wizard in the Klan. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, one, why are you telling her this? Two, I'm kind of actually glad you're telling her this, because we kind
Right,
of know now what your family is about. And then it's like three, she just said it very casually, like a matter of fact
right.
way, like in a casual conversation. You
Like my
never
father was a pastor or my father was a doctor, but
right.
they, yeah. Mhm.
You never know who is connected to who. You really don't.
You
And
never know, but you have a sense of awareness.
yeah.
And, and so I think ours is a little heightened. Like I
Mm-hmm.
don't play at all with the Confederate flag, and you can't tell me you're a rebel or any of it. And this is me not even knowing the origin of the Confederate flag. I just knew that it was connected to the Klan before I knew that it was connected to the Civil War, and so I have zero tolerance for anything that is connected to a hate group. And sometimes you can see, I mean, you're a black woman in America. So sometimes you can just see by the way that they speak and how they live their lives, how they're connected. But just going up into church, because everybody in church looks like, if you go into a church, a diverse church, everybody in church looks like church goers.
Mm-hmm.
So they're now in sheep's clothing, but it is just being hyper aware of your surroundings. And I think that some of the second generation, especially the ones that was there, especially the ones that saw firsthand what happened, we are hyper aware of it, speech, um, gestures, body language, like it is. And even if we get it wrong, which very rarely happens, we um we still are protecting ourselves because you're right. Everybody doesn't walk around with the hood on or a
Mm-hmm.
swastika on their arm, but you just have to be aware. And I mean, we learned this at such a young age because it was a life or death thing. This is what we had to use for life or death situations.
Yeah, absolutely. For me personally, I grew up in rural Virginia and everything like that. The moment I see that flag or any kind of garb, I mean, it could be on your underwear for all I care.
Right.
My ears are going to perk up. I'm going to be in fight or flight, and I'm going to get far away as possible. You know what I'm saying? Like, and
Absolutely.
when you travel and stuff, and you probably know this too, because obviously we had the motorist green book back in the day. My grandparents, my
Absolutely.
grandfather had it because they lived in New York for a while before, and when they would come down here to visit during the summers and stuff, they would have that book in hand. But
Yes.
even now, I definitely do a whole lot of research before I go somewhere, especially by myself.
Absolutely.
you know
I was telling someone at my job um, not long ago, they was like, you should come back after work and we have drinks and like go out for drinks or whatever in a neighborhood town. It's called Mayodan, North Carolina. And not only do I know that it used to be a sundown town, it looks like it still is.
Mm.
And I was like, yeah, no, I'm not gonna be able to make it. And they was like, well, I was like, that looks very much like a sundown town. And a lot of people did not know what I meant, but the other Black people that was in attendance of this conversation was like, oh, okay, yeah, it does. So,
Yeah.
yeah, you have to do research, or when you're going through a small town, just don't stop.
Right.
Just keep going.
Exactly. Exactly. Now, let's go back to the victims here. Do you have any memories of the victims?
Yeah, absolutely. So James Waller, he was a pediatrician, and we used to go over to his house a lot. He was a very serious person because he had a lot of responsibility, but he always made time for us. He also often, my younger brother suffered with like chronic ear infections. He would come to our nursery school. My mom would call him. He'll come, as a matter of fact. So the nursery school was ran by my aunt, and they would be like, "How is Walina getting this doctor to come into this nursery school to check on a patient, doing house calls, and then he's looking at other kids to make sure that they're good, and then they hit it, they hit on them." So I remember that Sandy was just as close to me as Aunt Joyce and Uncle Nelson because she was Aunt Joyce's best friend, and she was always at their house. Caesar, I used to, I didn't have a lot. I don't remember a lot of interactions with him, but I wanted to know, how did a white man get an afro? I remember asking that a lot, not knowing that he was Cuban. And Mike Nathan, yes, I saw a lot when we went to Marnie's house, but Mike wasn't even in the party. He did things trying to get, health care and aid to patients in Zimbabwe, I think it was. And so I knew Jim. Bill, I knew because he was a guitar player. So we had several guitar players in the party, and Bill was one of them, and he did well with requests. so,
Hmm.
so him and Tom Clark were the two that played guitars wherever we were. So I knew them all. I had a personal relationship with them all, or my mother did when it like with Caesar, but I think Caesar and Flores may have lived in Durham. So they wasn't someone I got to see often. Even with Marnie not living in Greensboro, I saw her often
Hmm.
because she was also one of the main organizers of whatever we were doing. So yeah.
And you all were, like you said before, and like I said before earlier, you all were a diverse group of people. Now, this
Oh
isn't,
yeah.
now, Caesar, he was Hispanic.
Mhm.
Sandra was a Black woman. And then uh, Michael and Dr. Waller, was Dr. Waller a Black man? What were their
Well, he was
ethnicities?
he was white, but he was Jewish. And then you had Bill, who was white, and Mike, who was white. I'm not sure if Mike was Jewish or not, but I think they were. Bill and Mike were just both white.
And of course, not one life is worth more than the other, right? But
Right.
again, this kind of goes back to being just completely floored by the results and the events after this all happened. Like nobody was
Mm-hmm.
held accountable. It's not like
Mm-mm.
all the victims were black. I mean, these were other, white and Jewish and well, Hispanics. They don't care about Hispanics either, but
Right.
I mean, wow. Like, I
Unfortunately.
mean, nobody, even when not all the victims were black, they still didn't feel the need to hold the perpetrators accountable. I mean, they had something against y'all.
Oh yeah. And if you think about it, when the lawsuit came about, the only person that was paid for and or restitution or whatever was Mike Nathan, a white male who said that he wasn't a part of this, or they knew he wasn't like a member of the CWP. So he was the only one that was like, all right, we're liable for that and nothing else.
Right,
And
yeah.
so
Because it says here in a civil lawsuit, 8 defendants were found liable for wrongful death of the non Communist Workers' Party member. That is insane.
yeah. But the payout was to Mike Nathan and Mike Nathan only, his family, which Marnie did use to start the Greensboro Justice Fund.
My goodness. I'm just completely floored that this was not like a big, big thing, like more than it should have been. I mean, especially the aftermath. And we had mentioned earlier that, there was some type of apology, but dot dot dot. What else do you think needs to be how do you think that you all can get justice at this point?
At this point, I think letting it be known and letting the facts be known, is definitely one of the things our parents have been fighting for. So that is one. I think I'm not sure because I just don't see Greensboro, the All American Town winners, numerous times saying we dropped the ball. We were wrong in it all. Because just think of how hard it is for us to apologize to one another. So think of if we had to apologize on that scale. I don't think it would be done. But I think the more that this is out, the more that this is seen, the more that this is in the forefront, is Greensboro will be under some type of pressure to acknowledge this thing or and to say sorry. But I, I maybe I'm being pessimistic, but they may or they may not. But the thing is, I want it out. I want people to know that my mom, under no circumstances, invited the Klan here, wanted the Klan, antagonized the Klan to come and kill 5 people in front of her 3 children.
Right.
So that is what we're looking for at this point. Um, and just to carry on their work and to let and also to do some internal healing. There is generational trauma now at this point, and so with each, like, we have to heal as well. So it's like we're on a multifaceted goal, here, trying to obtain several different goals on what we need to do, how we need to get this out, and what we need to do as a family. And so those are the things that are important to us now.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned that your mom, under no circumstances, would have wanted something like that to go down in front of her 3 children. And I saw this too. Right before your mom passed, she was recognized by the city of Greensboro. Is that correct? Talk about that.
Yes. Yes, she was recognized by the city of the county commissioners. And it's so funny because my mom was like, I don't want recognition. I want them to do what they're supposed to do. And I was like, we have to do this for your grandchildren. So she went and they gave recognition to my mom for her work. But they were later on in life, my mom was a healthy home specialist for Greensboro Housing Coalition. So she targets slumlords, she target unhealthy conditions in homes with families. She was an advocate of removing lead paint from homes. And so that is what they recognized her for.
Mm,
Um, and so we knew, my mom knew what it was. She brought it to my attention. She was like, this is not the recognition I want.
right.
She said, I'm proud of that work. She said, but the recognition I want is not one they're going to give.
And side
So,
note, also, this was not from the city of Greensboro. I'll take that back. I apologize for that. This was actually Guilford County, which is a county that Greensboro is in. So
right.
notice it wasn't the city, it was the county that
Yeah.
that did that.
I also want to let you know that in May, first week of May, Greensboro City Council brought us up and gave us the same recognition for her
Mm.
for her housing and things that she did in the community. But two of my classmates from Dudley High School is now on the city council, and Crystal Black, which is a city council member, knows. I mean, we hang out. Like my mom's cooked. They went and got sweet potatoes together. Like she has a personal relationship with the family.
Mm.
So, and then if you look at Greensboro City Councils, what they look like now, they look like you and I,
Yeah.
as opposed as opposed to what they used to look like. So they're making waves. So I feel like the time is now to start speaking on the truth, which is why I appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
The time is now to continue our parents' work, to let the world know that we didn't bring them here, we didn't want them here, and we most certainly didn't want them to kill our family.
Absolutely. Because I mean, when you just described your mom just now, I mean, that doesn't sound like a violent person to me.
Oh no, my mom is totally not. Like she has always been for the people. She's always provided housing, even if she had to bring the family into her own home. And it wasn't it wasn't unusual for us to wake up and my mom was like, she's here for just 2 weeks, and we're like, who is this? And she's like, they was out of a place to stay, I'm getting them a place to stay. Like that's what she's always done.
Wow.
And so my mom is a person of the people and have been since she has integrated the Dairy Queen in her hometown at the age of 18. So
Well, I could tell you I was definitely honored to talk with you all back in November, especially your mom and everything. I'm really glad I was able to talk to your mom before she passed. I hope that I was able to provide her a platform to tell her side of the story,
I was
because
too.
because I feel like even before that point there really wasn't no in-depth news stories talking about the event. They were kind of like, just briefly saying, but
Absolutely.
it wasn't, no, we didn't hear much from the victims, and that's what I wanted to bring out. Because I sure, excuse me, friend, I sure as hell wasn't going to go to the Klan or this and search for them and be like, so how did that make you feel? How did that event help you? Absolutely not. I mean, because
Right.
I mean, I'm a black woman first and foremost, and I
Hmm.
know I've learned enough history to know that our people have gotten killed by them for centuries, for years, decades,
For
and
less.
yeah,
For
exactly.
just walking down the street. Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I was not gonna find them. Absolutely not. I'm not gonna, because y'all didn't kill nobody. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Y'all
Absolutely.
didn't kill nobody, and so I wasn't gonna be like saying to them or asking them, "Oh my God, how did this make you feel, and how did this affect you?" No, 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 no,
Right.
absolutely
Right.
not. My last question, because I know that there's a book, I believe called Morningside, about
Hmm.
the event. How did that book is still not mainstream, I feel like. I mean, I feel like a lot
It's
of
not.
people really don't know about that book. How did you feel about that book coming out, and does it go in depth about what really really happened?
With that book coming out, I did learn more things than we knew. I found out that in my mom's quest to help take care of people that was homeless or needed a place to stay, she housed an informant, undercover uh, FBI agent. Excuse me, not an informant, an undercover FBI agent. So there was, so she did do that, and so I learned a couple of other facts. But the one that really really opened my eyes to the whole event. It's called Through Survivor's Eyes, and it is written by Sally Bermazan, and she is the wife of Paul Bermazan. And she interviewed my mom, my older brother, Nelson, Marnie, and and herself. So it was like she interviewed six pivotal people that, or six important people that were there. Kwame, my older brother, who was older than we were, he's the oldest there, um, had a different experience. And so, but reading that, I learned a lot more facts. And that was the beginning of my journey of learning about this book. And I mean, about the actual day. We know what we knew what we knew, but no one has our parents didn't sit us down and was like, let me go into depth with you about this. But Sally sat them down and was able to ask questions and how they felt and like a more personal account of when running, what did you think? And so that was the book that opened my eyes to learning my family's history.
Wow. Wow.
Yes.
And, do you, I mean, do you think that any steps are being taken now to educate people on this event?
Well, I will say Nelson and Joyce never stopped. They have opened my mother. Well, actually, my mother was one of the founding members of the Beloved Community, and through that nonprofit, they are still teaching. And they are so our bless them. The first generation is using some of the older methods of trying to get this message across, face to face demonstrations, but there are more platforms on how we can get this together. So it has been a nonstop thing for the entire family, and we're just going to take it up as the second generation and make a little more noise so
As you
that we
should.
as so we can get the third generation in line and make sure that we don't transfer any trauma from that.
History, as we know it, is being erased. Pictures and museums are being taken down, and people talk about DEI and critical race theory and all that other stuff. And that's, and you could probably agree with me too. That's what scares me, is that this is an already swept under the rug event, and
Mhm.
then now the more well-known events are also being swept under the rug. Is that something that bothers you?
No, it doesn't actually. And here's why, because America is going to, she's going to be what America has always been. So America will take care of some things. Like, so you tried to mess with the JFK Center, and so that was reversed. You tried to take all the black things and things of importance to our community away from the parks. That was reversed. So um, America wants to get back to business, and right now she can't because she's being pulled backward. And it's not that America's always looked at black folks like we are just the beacon of hope, but what America's going to do is get back to America before Trump. And they now they can't erase Barack Obama, but they won't highlight his initiatives or his, hope or America for all. I think where we are now, I think where most Americans, we want to get back to America with George Bush, the baby Bush. I don't, I'm not worried because there's things in place, there's amendments, and there's the Constitution in place. And America, she's not going to let you ignore those. So we will be back. I mean, it's still not to the most favorable time for us, but we will be back to where you can't. I have faith in that, that we'll be back to where Roe v. Wade will be back reinstated. I believe that everything that Trump is trying to do will reverse itself. We're watching an age of corruption. And so right now, it is affecting the minority, the white people, and they see him that he's making. We're not able to celebrate America's 250th birthday because he's capitalized off of this whole thing.
Hmm.
So and so what white America is not going to let happen is this, they're not going to let that continue to happen. And to take it back to where it was pre-Trump takes it back to where Black folks are recognized for some stuff. You're going to sweep it under the rug a little bit, but the rug will be exposed to at least pre-Obama. So I have faith that we will get back to an era where the stopping point and where we can continue to move forward. He's trying it, but everyone is sick of it.
Yeah.
And no one wants to be the laughingstock of the world. So
I,
I have faith in our ego. I do.
I definitely agree with you on that. I definitely agree. But Imani, once again, thank you so much for telling your story, or telling your story again to me. At least.
Uh-huh.
I really do appreciate it. All right, guys, that concludes this episode of Stories They Buried podcast. For more information, you can go to the YouTube channel Stories They Buried, or we are on TikTok now, and that is also called Stories They Buried. You can find all different clips of today's episode as well as previous episodes that we also aired. Thank you all so much, and see you on the next episode.